the more we can take that information and be preventative, the less likely something's going to go out in a time of crisis. So we're hot washing right now over the three storms we just had, and I'm sure other ideas around digital technology and tools will come out of that, which I'm really excited about.
Welcome to Technovation. I'm your host, Peter High. Our broadcast today features a panel from our Metis Strategy Summit held on October 29th. And the topic of the conversation is balancing innovation and modernization. The panelists who joined us were Nick Parrotta, the Chief Digital and Information Officer and President, Digital Transformation Solutions at HARMAN International, Bonnie Titone, the Chief Administration Officer of Duke Energy, and Pritha Mehra, the Chief Information Officer of the U.S. Postal Service. The session was moderated by Metis Strategy West Coast Office Manager, Aslam Ulusoy. I hope you enjoyed the conversation.
We're going to talk about innovation, how to use innovation to modernize our technologies, while at the same time keeping our legacy systems in place and allowing for new pioneers. Modernization, transformation, these are always moving goalposts. They change every day, and today we've been talking about AI quite a lot. What I want to start today with is taking half a step back, maybe talk about cloud, because that's what we were talking about yesterday, right? And we're going to keep talking about it too. And here we have three very different industries represented. They handle the cloud question differently. So maybe what we can start with is Pritha here. She's been with the USPS for 35 years. We're all her customers. The way that she approaches cloud is very different, right? When you talk about scalability, reliability, it's a whole different level in her case. So maybe first question to you, Pritha.
Sure. So we have 950 legacy applications, right? And tons and tons and tons of data. So when we got a new Postmaster General, Louis DeJoy, we structured a new plan. It's called Delivering for America. And basically that plan is about modernizing everything. So in the CIO group, we sort of ruthlessly prioritized what we would work on. And it was largely our mission critical systems, like our logistics platform. And in our cloud strategy, we have to be happy with all three, because we woke up and realized that we don't want to build anything ourselves. We want to rely on the experts. So we, have become much more outward looking, and we are procuring a lot of SaaS products, and they rest where they rest. So we have to work with all three. So we've set up a very strong and robust infrastructure to connect to the three with direct connects across all regions. And then we have selected one of them to be our data platform, which has been really awesome for us in the last year, where we've laid out this strategy where we are bringing in visibility data, product data, all that data and resting it in to do all kinds of analytics. The other big things we've done is that we've really grown our architecture practice, and we brought our data group under the CIO. They weren't there before. So there was a lot of tension, and now there isn't, because whenever we deploy a new architecture, there is always an architectural assessment done where we look at current state and future state and make sure that we have the constructs. We also require our cloud vendors to give us their costs beforehand based on the data, because we know how much data we move, we know how many packages we move, we know how many visibility points we have. So prior to making a selection, they have to go through a pretty deep inspection of how they charge us, what exactly is compute. And we have really skilled our infrastructure team to understand cost and price across all three platforms, because that's really critical, as your money can run away and you can keep throwing things into cloud and not realizing that, the money's ticking. So that's some of the things we did.
Thank you. So Bonnie, you've been at Duke Energy for 5.5, almost 6 years, Chief Administrative Officer, most recently responsible for innovation, supply chain, facilities, IT, all of it. What are some of the ways that you're deploying cloud? I know you have been working on grid planning applications, sort of moving now from on-prem to cloud and moving further into mobile applications. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So maybe I just take one step back before I tell you about the cloud journey. If you think about us, 100-plus-year-old utility, have 11 data centers, 2 primary, 9, it's called critical infrastructure. And I was staring down having to build the next phase of the next data center. Because if you think about, we're across 6 states, 10 million customers, tons of data as well. I totally can appreciate that. And about 1,500 applications. And I didn't see the value in paying for another phase of a data center that ultimately I was going to have to function in the same way I was. And then you couple that with a clean energy transition, right? Most utilities are trying to get out of coal, right? Bring new regulated generation. So think batteries and wind and storage and solar being a big one. All of that I recognized really quickly was going to take a ton of information in order for me to help the business make decisions, right? So I had to give them information to help them make decisions. But I couldn't take all of that data and information back to my brick and mortar data centers and give it to them in any reasonable time to make a decision. So those were the 2 things I was kind of staring down when I came into the company. And that's where I started to embark on this cloud journey, because obviously the scale and the pace of the cloud was something that was really intriguing to me, not having to build out another phase of the data center that I had to support and maintain. But it was a really difficult conversation to have with a 100-plus-year-old utility company. That cloud was just a concept to them that maybe they dabbled in, but really weren't willing appetite to jump in on that. So it took a bit of education. It took a bit of, let me experiment and show you the value of this. Let me give you information and tools that can respond in a manner that you're not used to. And that's how the journey started. And then in a partnership with AWS, we decided we were going to co-develop with them. We had built about 12 applications that we call iGrid. And this is everything from data cleanup all the way to forecasting and planning. So if you think about the utility grid, you want to make sure you're building your next transmission line that's connected to generation that ultimately is going to be able to allow you to distribute that energy down to where the need's going to be. So we had to forecast that appropriately. And that's not a year or 2 ahead of time. That's 10 years ahead of time. It takes years to build a substation that ultimately serves a hotel like this where you can turn the lights on. And so we had this suite of tools, and I knew I couldn't keep running those on-prem. And I went to AWS, and we had long discussions, and we said, let's co-develop, not only you modernizing and rebuilding that entire suite on the cloud, but AWS was going to build all their services to basically bend towards what I needed the response to be. So think power flow generations and things of that nature. And it's been a really great partnership over the 2.5 years. We got a long way to go, but we have our first couple of services out and running, and we have almost all of our iGrid solutions now modernized.
Thank you. And Nick has been the CDIO at HARMAN International for 7-8 years or so. I'm sure you're going to correct me, or it feels longer. You're responsible for digital transformations. And when we were talking earlier, we talked at length about how you use it to shape customer demand, how you use cloud technologies. You went going from on-prem to cloud to edge, how you reach the clients and use it for personalization. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your journey into cloud migration.
Great. Well, first, thank you for having me, and thanks to my panelists as well. And thanks to Peter and Metis for the opportunity, and of course, of all of you for attending. First, a little bit about HARMAN, a wholly owned subsidiary of Samsung, with 30,000 plus people with a purpose and a passion to deliver connected experiences. Some you probably are accustomed to in the home, in the car, on the go, and at the workplace. With our automotive business, we have over 50 million cars on the road that use our technology with advanced driver assist, infotainment, immersive car premium audio, and really building an immersive experience in the vehicle. And so certainly the backbone of that is around cloud and AI. In that ecosystem, going from the car to the home, we've got a house of brands with JBL, Harman Kardon, Bang & Olufsen, and so smart audio capabilities. And so, again, using cloud and AI to personalize that experience in the home. And then in the enterprise, we have a global tech services organization that builds capabilities for HARMAN, but then turns around and does the same for external customers, about 200 in the industrial and healthcare spaces. And so first, we'd like to be a reference point. And when I first started in 2017, we had all sorts of interesting environments related to cloud and cloud instances around the company. And so the first is we really took an approach of how do we build infra as a service first, and then product as a service, and then data as a service. And so really reining in and creating a cloud hub framework, which is available now on AWS and Azure in the marketplaces, but really building an infrastructure as a service model where software engineers can spin up anything that they wanted. And we were cloud agnostic, whether it's GCP or Azure or AWS, to be able to come in and pick what you need in a centralized way with all of the metering, monitoring, and management that will come with it, including not only the provisioning, but seeing how much you're spending, and also taking advantage of cloud internet security protocols, as well as really AI bots to drive, for instance, optimization around downtime scheduling. So first was building the infrastructure as a service, really making sure that we have all the components that will provide speed and scale. The second is we went from, I think, somewhere in the average of 6 months, when you think about all the work that the software engineering teams were doing through procurement and all of the provisioning, to six minutes. Being able to spin up an instance and speed to commercial is really important for us. So having all of our software engineers to be able to go and start building product on it was another big transformational item. And now as we look at data as a service and data as ubiquitous, being able to provide a personalized experience in the vehicle where you can have a workforce on wheels, an immersive experience in vehicle as you move to an autonomous vehicle, and I have a collaboration space with noise canceling, video conferencing, and integrating that in the experience going from the office to the car is pretty fun. So I think those are the things that we're always, kind of disrupting and inventing ourselves. We start with how do we do the basics within our company around infrastructure. Product is next, and being able to launch those into the framework with all of the things that you would expect as a user to have around simpler, scalable, and secure capabilities. And then it's, being able to drive those as revenue and new business models and revenue streams. So now we offer the same capabilities to other external customers that want to use the same and kind of avoid some of the failures that we've had and take advantage of some of the achievements and lessons learned that we've been able to gain with the product.
Amazing. So some of these basic elements that we talk about, migrating to cloud, making those decisions, they help us not just deal with what's in front of us, but with impossible situations that are thrown. The biggest example being COVID and supply chain, and how this readiness helped you to deal with impossible situations like that, delivering test kits to us, 21, 22 timeframe. Can you tell us a little bit about how you were able to be ready for something like that or get ready?
Yeah, this is one of when, you go through life and you have an impossible story. This is probably it for me. I was driving home from a vacation and Lewis, my boss, calls me and he goes, "While the world is crashing around, you were just happily on vacation." I was like, "Excuse me, I took 1 week off. It's Christmas. Yesterday was Christmas. I'm on my way home." It was a Sunday. It was the 26th of December. He goes, "Well, we just got a call from the White House and I'm not going to say no. So they want us to distribute these COVID test kits. Oh, by the way, it's not just distribution because that's what we do. We distribute mail and packages. We have to get these kits in pallets. We have to break them out. We have to repackage them into envelopes. People can order on a website. And then we have to, distribute these through these distribution centers across the country. And we have to do this in 3 weeks." And I said, "You're kidding, right?" He goes, "No." So he goes, and literally there was a Sunday, I got my team on, and Lewis was really a great example of leadership in crisis because he engaged the entire operation, all of the postal employees. And there was, a role for everyone, whether it was kitting, whether it was designing the right envelope to put the kits in. But my job was to take care of all technology. So that was putting up a website. We didn't know how many orders we were going to get a minute. That website then had to distribute the orders through our inventory management system. to map the orders to an actual fulfillment center where it was kitted. We had to send emails to the customers telling it's on the way. We had to track their delivery, so there was the tracking system and yada, yada, yada. And so I called my team and I said, we literally have to get this website deployed. That's the only thing that has to work right. I don't care if anything else fails behind this. No one will know. But this has to work, right? So we put out 3 challenge teams. Well, we had my infrastructure guy saying, I already have a website. It's called the Postal Store. I said, and it's not going to work. He said, it is, by golly. And I think he fed it like 800 virtual servers trying to get this because I gave them a challenge. The White House told us to prepare for 1 million orders an hour. And I said to my team, no, we're doing 20 million an hour. They go, where do you pick this up from, Pritha? I said, do the math. There's 400 million people in this country. 10% are going to order in the first year. He goes, and how did you figure that out? I said, I woke up and it came to me. So we went from 1 million to 20 million, and the 3 teams we did a bake-off where they had to, deliver. So we did one solution in Amazon. We already had the capabilities to do, websites at scale, but then we already had the Kafka queuing set up so that we could send those orders asynchronously to worker bees to work. So, we obviously leveraged a lot of those platforms, and then we, did the fulfillment product. And I tell you, it was amazing because all through the planning process, we said we cannot be like healthcare.gov. When it first launched, it crashed. And that's all we were afraid of. And my boss kept calling me and saying, is this going to work? I said, I think so. Anyway, what we did really right was we simulated the ordering process using JMeter to actually simulate the orders coming in, even though the website wasn't ready. We started that on week 2. And that was really interesting because that's what helped us prepare for the 20 million goal that we set up. And what's really funny is on the first day, in the peak ordering hour, we got close to 9 million orders. And we were beautiful. Nothing failed, not a thing. We journey mapped the entire order in technology, right from the order all the way to distribution and websites. We even called Yahoo and AOL and Google and said, we're going to be spamming all these emails. So we don't have a reputation from this IP address, but you got to let us through. And we brought in our partners really early. And I think the journey mapping where we had metrics for performance metrics all along the supply chain were really key. And the other thing we did was engaging experts quickly, soon, and through the entire process. So I thought we were heroes. There you go.
Speaking of disaster, we had 2 hurricanes and numerous tornadoes go through some of the areas that you guys service.
Right.
And you were able to deal with that situation by connecting the dots, helping other departments connect the dots, and do damage assessments and everything else. So maybe you can tell us how you got ready for something like that.
Well, let me start with first for utility. When a hurricane or a storm comes, it's like our Super Bowl. Everybody has a storm roll. You take off your day hat and you put on your storm roll hat. And it's just amazing to see the orchestration of the company come together in times of crisis, because we're certainly at our best at that point. And over the last 2 months, we were tested in a really big way. We had 3 hurricanes. Debbie came first. We had a little bit of break. Then Helene came, which was pretty destructive. And we had 1 day off. And then Milton came, very destructive to Florida. So I think for us, what was great is we got to see the tools that we've been building over the course of time really stand out and come to fruition. What's really important to a utility at all times, but definitely during a storm, is communication to our customers. Tell them what to expect before it comes, be able to communicate them that we know you're out and when we think you're going to be restored. And then the second thing is just restoration. How do we do restoration as quick and safely as possible for our teammates? And a couple of the tools that we've built over the course of time certainly helped us there. And I love the hot washes after storms because so many great ideas just come to the surface by the sake of just doing. Right. So a couple that stood out this time is I'm responsible for the aviation department. We have a pretty significant unmanned aerial system, or what people know as drones. Those teams did a ton of work to get out and look at the devastation by creating video of it. We're in areas you just couldn't get to. There was a lot of trees and vegetation down. Roads were wiped out. Mud was everywhere. The only way we can see our transmission and our distribution in some instances was by flying a drone and bringing that imagery back and using models to help us figure out how many poles do I need based on that particular line segment, how much wire do I need to order based on that line segment being out. And that piece was just really important to understanding what the situation looked like so that we can then create the orders to then get a team out to restore. The second thing was our damage assessment tool. It used to be all on paper. You used to wait till the storm passed, and then you sent teammates out, and they kind of looked at the damage and wrote it all on a piece of paper and brought it back to an operations center and typed it in. And then that created the work order that ultimately sent a team out to fix it. Now we have a handheld digital mobile device that you basically go with the teammate. They take pictures real time. They fill out the form, and it goes directly into our EAM system that then dispatches the teammates. So think about how quickly the restoration can happen. You're taking hours and sometimes days off of the ability to get somebody their power back, which is incredibly important to the work that we do every day. We're building a tool right now called Scout that'll be able to think of it as your pizza delivery, but for your material. So knowing exactly where your material is at every phase so that if you're waiting on a material for the job, you know whether that's coming in the next hour or the next day or the next 2 days, so that you can reroute your teammates and make sure that they're making the best use of their time and the resource capacity that we have. And there's a bunch of tools too that we've built around imagery. So think geospatial. Our transmission and distribution lines are everything to us, and knowing where your assets are and being able to leverage the helicopters and the drone technology around the health of it is incredibly important for us. So the more we can take that information and be preventative, the less likely something's going to go out in a time of crisis. So we're hot washing right now over the three storms we just had, and I'm sure other ideas around digital technology and tools will come out of that, which I'm really excited about.
So looking at the way that Nick, you and your team is utilizing modernization to allow innovation, everyone here on this stage has been talking about customer experience and how to improve on that, to understand the journey and how to make that better. And I know you're putting a lot of effort into personalization efforts. So the way you're using data, the way that you're using various technologies to enable that. So can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Sure. So first, incredible stories and I think if you told any one of us years ago, that we would experience pandemic, wars, supply chain crisis, all in the span of the last 5 years, let alone a career, we would have said there's no way. I think we'll think about a different profession probably. So, when we were going through both the pandemic and the supply chain crisis, I think it created some of the most credible and confidence within the organization and also the company, along with some of our customers and partners. Certainly from the COVID perspective, being able to create a contactless curbside commerce experience in vehicle was something that through a really difficult situation came out some really unique innovation. So the notion that you'd be able to use interactive voice, geolocation services, payment processes in a really personalized manner, no matter where you are, to help not only improve the user experience, but also protect people during the pandemic was something that I think was something that now we build on. From a contactless curbside commerce experience, there's so many other additional things that we're doing within the vehicle and transitioning that. Similar in the supply chain crisis, with the semiconductor crisis, and we're heavily dependent on semiconductor chips, as almost everyone is, being able to use supply chain and inventory optimization, probabilistic models helped us move to the next stage of what we launched, which was a forecast GPT which is also available in the AWS marketplace. But to be able to use data, small language models, and then build machine learning and tuning and visualization that was embedded in our already existing tech stack. So we've got a Snowflake database or data lake. We've got Click as a visualization layer, and now we've embedded OpenAI with the appropriate protections around it, supporting biases and hallucinations. But to be able to build a prompt right into the normal analytics dashboards that we had to help make better decisions during the supply chain crisis was something that gave us tremendous credibility with our customers, the OEMs, but also when you're looking at, and there's nothing, that loses value more than when you go out to a site and you go to our JBL.com site. It's the holidays, folks, so go to JBL.com. That user experience, that virtual personal assistant, that guided selling, but also knowing that there's no stockouts, having that very clear understanding around where the distributors are, where the average inventory on hand is, what products are best fit for your needs, including taking a picture of your ear and suggesting the right earbud that will fit your ear, is something that helps drive that user experience and that stickiness with customers. So I think it's early days. There's so many more use cases and interesting opportunities to take what will be an exciting place to personalize both our products and our services in an ecosystem that's going to continue to grow. I mean, you look at the Samsung ecosystem, we're really excited about the future and how well we're positioned with our automotive, our consumer audio, and our global tech services businesses.
Thank you. That's interesting. So we don't have maybe like about a minute or two each. Can you tell us a little bit about how you handle the human aspect of all these modernization and transformation efforts, right? Nothing is complete if you can't rally people around what you're trying to do, if you can't get the buy-in. I know you had different but similar approaches in some ways, so maybe briefly tell us a little bit about that too.
Sure. We started by, of course, reorganizing. I think organization matters. Titles matter. We changed titles. We upped everyone's salaries, which is always hard to do in government. We actually allowed remote work, especially for the extreme and deep technologist positions. And then, to change a ship with 1,500 technologists, we decided we had to do it through curiosity. So we created a culture of curiosity. And this was another one of my harebrained driving home. I was listening to a podcast, which I loved. I called my architecture dude and I said, "You're going to lead this podcast." He said, "What do you mean lead it?" I said, "Have everyone hear it and then chat about it." It was on AI. And I said, "And if one person in our organization joins, I'll be happy." 700 people joined. And then we started this sort of tech chat process where we do it once every 2 weeks. And another thing we did, which is not very native in government, is we invite outside vendors to talk about their wares, whatever, their solutions. Anybody and everyone that we like, that we've heard, that anyone's allowed to bring a topic. And that has been really good because people are so energized about the new. And the third thing is that we are beginning to integrate AI and machine learning as a practice. When anything new comes out, we have an AI council that actually looks at, and our architectural group that actually looks at things to say, is there an automated way to do this? Then is there a model out there that we can use to do this? So we're sort of bringing in that AI engineering, embedding it in, so people are sort of encouraged to do that. And it's been very buoyant with this change, so.
Yeah, ours is somewhat similar. I took the approach of exposure. When we started to think about, there's 2,000 employees within the IT department, another 300 in security, but I was thinking about them together. It was really about exposure, and we knew we had to modernize, and we knew we couldn't do it all at once. So we obviously did the prioritization around that. We picked and chose each year what dollars from a financial perspective and a resource capacity perspective were we going to focus at modernization, similar to we focus dollars on lifecycle and reliability and vulnerability management and all of that. And we stuck to that approach, but everything we went after from a modernization perspective, we brought a group of people together that had some knowledge and understanding of that system. We brought some other people that didn't, right, that were more legacy type, and then we brought a third party. and we put them all together and let them work together to modernize what the future of that looked like. And we rotated them for everything that we did. And so people got exposure to the process, and we got to the point where they were asking for more, and we didn't even have the financial means within that particular year to get it done. But I think it was giving them exposure to what it could look like, making it safe for them to make mistakes, having somebody to lean on, like an expert or a third party, all came together to really help us create this curiosity. I love that you said that, because that was certainly what it was. And then they got to see their app being used in the cloud in a way that they had never seen it be used by the business users. And the feedback was really incredible. And I think all of that together certainly helped us. And then we took another approach where we created gigs. And we said, you can apply for any gig. Think of it just as a job posting. You can apply for any gig up to 20 hours a week, and we will carve out the time for you to do that on top of your day job. And we, by far, the IT and security department had the largest number of people on a gig, and we still do to this day, and we're four years into it. So I think it's that exposure and experience and making it safe for people certainly has created a future workforce for us that hopefully will help us continue on our journey.
Yeah, so I'll point out three things. First is building high-performing, cohesive, diverse teams. Living the values around diversity, equity, inclusion are important for HARMAN and for me. So having a diverse group of people all from all over the world, different perspectives, different points of view, for us is really important. And I wouldn't be up here on stage, quite frankly, if I didn't have a diverse team of leaders that I've worked for, or have supported. And so I think that's the first, is certainly having a diversity commitment, equity, and inclusion, and living those values. The second is having the right competency models and career frameworks that are aligned with those competency models. So getting fit for future and making sure that you're partnering with your HR organizations and outside parties like Udemy or Cloudera and others, including the AWSs of the world, the OpenAIs of the world, the Microsofts of the world, who are coming in and teaching your talent how to build capabilities that they can go on and deliver a lot of value for. I think then the third is, telling that story, and not just about the what we do every day, but the why we do it. And so for every individual, they understand the role that they're playing in our success and the customer's success, and continuing to reward and recognize that talent for those kinds of, traits, values, and performances is something that's important to me.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for all the insights. Looking forward to seeing what's next for you guys on your modernization roadmap. Thank you.